Hello friend, and welcome to Ultimate Wealth TV. I am your host, David Newbie. No matter how wealthy or experienced I get or old, I will always be a newbie. This is the internet's most passionate blog about personal finance and strategic advantage for you as a savvy entrepreneur. And today I have a couple of really exciting things to share with you. So let's jump right in. First of all, the Solomon Trillionaire Tip of the day is the following. It's from Proverbs chapter 11, verses 24 and 25. And I'm going to look off camera here and read this proverb to you. In case you didn't know, Solomon was the world's only trillionaire. He had over $1 trillion in gold holdings alone. So every day I like to share with you wisdom from the richest man who ever lived that you can apply in your personal finances. Solomon said the following. Of one man gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. A generous man will prosper. He who refreshes others will himself be refreshed. Now, how do you apply those principles in your personal finances? I want to talk about generosity. A lot of times you'll hear teachings about tithe or give to others and expect and use the laws of nature, the universe, to come back to you tenfold. And the law of sowing and reaping is very accurate. When you sow, you're going to reap the result, and usually multiplied. However, I want to talk about like a next level of understanding of giving. When you give without any kind of expectation of return, you're just like giving because you feel led in your heart to give to something. You are bringing grace into your life. You're not giving something out with an expectation of a return, a la financial sowing. You hear some religious people specifically use that phraseology. When you give, you should give just out of a desire to give and introduce grace to that money that you're giving to whoever you're giving it to. When you do that, you're opening up the door for God to bless you in ways that you might not even thought of, in much better ways than just the formulaic, I'm going to give $100 and so I'm hoping I get $1,000 return, or I'm going to give $1,000 and so I'm formulaically going to look to get $10,000 back from that. I don't think God and the universe work that way. And really, if you think about it, if you do believe in a God, why would you want to use God as a means to an end of financial need? If God owns everything, and He does exist, or she, I'm not going to get all political about it, if God exists, which I believe He does, then why limit what He can bless you with by putting expectation on something that you give to others? So this is a pretty big concept, but I wanted to just encourage you to realize that if you refresh others and give to others with no expectation of return, the benefits that can come back to you are many-fold multiplied better than this idea of sowing and reaping and thinking of giving in that way. If you want to get more insight on this concept, I just read this book this last week. It's very powerful. I'm reading it to my kids. It's called Living on the Third River by Craig Hill, and has some very, very powerful concepts for you to help understand giving and money in a whole new, exciting, powerful way. So the book's only $6. You can go to marketplaceleaders.org and click on the bookstore tab and just type in Living on the Third River. You can get the book right there. So that's the Solomon Trillionaire Wealth Tip of the Day. Look for opportunities to refresh others so that you can in turn be refreshed. Now, for the main focus today, I want to talk to you about two main things, and that is funding and focus. So two topics I want to talk to you today. This is our theme, funding and focus. Now, a lot of people, when they look to start a business venture, they say, hey, I need X amount of funding. And then they add that all up and they put together a game plan to raise that funding. They raise it, they go do the business. That's what I've traditionally done most of my life with different endeavors. I want to talk about how that ties into focus because first of all, when it comes to focus, focus and diligence and having the right advisors are the main ingredients necessary for you to be successful in whatever endeavor you partake and venture down. And funding is a big part of it, and focus is a big part of it. They both equally are. Now on the funding side, I'm going to give you one main tip. First of all, Wall Street Journal just did an article, it's on their website right now, about the number one mistake that people made with startups is that they underestimated the amount of funding that they need. They also talked about that they didn't set up appropriate channels for accessing credit and funding when they needed it for their startup. So I want to encourage you, whatever amount of funding you think you need, as a good general rule, just add 30% to that. I typically add 50% just to be really on the safe side. But add 30% to what you think you need, and shoot to raise 30% more than what you think you need to start up the business, and that way you have a cushion. It's better to have more than you need than not enough. So that's the first tip I want to give you for funding. Now on the focus side, it correlates. I wanted to share a story with you about something that's happened in my experience in the last month or so, and how it relates to business ventures I'm working on, and how you can apply it in your business endeavors as well. I've been working on a gold deal for over a year now. We signed our contracts to buy multiple millions of dollars a month worth of gold from West Africa and import it here to the US. Now, we put together, it took about 5 or 6 months for us to put all of our structures in place and put our team in place to bring the gold in and do it safely and do it the right way. So we've been very diligent. Part of our game plan involved bringing in funding. Now, I was focused on this deal probably 70% of my working hours for about 6 months. And then the funding wasn't come in. I did everything that people told me to do. We put together PPM, etc., etc. And the funding just wasn't coming in. So, what do you think is the best thing to do in that situation? What I did was I realized, hey, my strategy isn't working. I need to shift my strategy. Within the realm of fundraising, I did 8 or 9 different strategies. And then I just realized, hey, this isn't working now. I'm going to put my main focus somewhere else and come back to this. Well, I want to encourage you, what you can draw from my experience is this: whatever big deal you're working on, always have a bread and butter that's paying you monthly. Don't put all your time on the big deal. I talked about that in a previous post. Second of all, I want you to realize, in terms of timing, sometimes a deal may reopen up down the line, as long as you don't just completely shelve it. You still work on it. That's what I did with my gold deal. I focused on other things that were bread and butters, and then I still worked on my gold deal. And guess what? 5 months later, the funding came along, and we're getting ready in the next few weeks, my partners and I, to do our first shipment of gold. So I want to encourage you, if something isn't working the way you want it to, don't give up on it. It might not be the right timing. It might be the right deal for you and just not the right timing. So that's the first example of my gold deal. Second of all, my International Solomon Society, my private club for billionaires. I've had that idea for over 3 years. It took 2 years for me just to get comfortable accepting the idea that I'm the person to run this club. Then, over the last year, for 6 months, I spent time building my marketing plan and all of that, and getting a lot of counsel on that, and putting all of that together, building my list of all the world's billionaires. A lot of work has gone into it. And a similar thing happened as with the gold deal. I needed X amount of funding to get that thing going, and I was using several strategies, and it just wasn't happening. So again, it's the same lesson as the gold deal. I'm like, hey, this is still a good plan, I think. I'm going to look for confirmation of that as I keep going. And I'm going to still focus on my bread and butter. So that's what I did. So, second cool update to share with you. In the last month, I have met 2 different people, both on the internet, interestingly enough, who have seen my billionaire club, got super excited about it. They're like, man, this is so awesome. You can do this, this, and this. And they see my vision so clearly. The second guy that I met lives overseas in Asia. And he actually had a similar idea, and he had just completely shelved it. He's like, hey, this is over my head. I'm not going to do this. Take whatever you want from these ideas. And when I read his summary of his idea, it was like 70% similar to my billionaire club, except he wanted to start with lower level income people and move up, and I'm starting at the peak of people of influence and moving down. We just have different comfort levels of where to start. So it was like God was giving me a confirmation that yes, this club is going to serve the purposes that I set out to, and that there are people on the similar wavelength, and some people just aren't ready to take action, and I am ready to take action, and now is the time. So I want to encourage you with those stories. If you've had some cool idea of yours that you've shelved or whatever, don't give up on it. It just might not be the right time right now. So again, remember, with any venture, you need to have the right funding in place, and the right focus, and the right team, and the right strategy. If you have those 2 components, you're going to be successful, And don't give up on something if it just isn't happening in your timing. You may need to grow or mature, or maybe even go through some trials to be ready to accomplish whatever that big project is that you want to accomplish. So don't let go of your dreams. Just realize that you might need to adjust your strategy and grow as an individual to ensure the success of that venture. So lastly, on the funding side, a lot of clients lately have been using our funding services to bring in funding for ventures, and it's really exciting to help them with that. So, you know, if you haven't checked out our page, check out the yourprosperitypower.com/products page, and you can read all about our different funding solutions there. And we just brought in a couple new funding solutions in the last 2 months. So that seems to be the hottest thing that I'm able to help clients with, and it's a blessing. And if we can be a blessing to you, then we will be glad to. So I want to wrap up with a question of the day for you. From the focus and funding insights, I'd just love to hear what are some experiences you've had, maybe challenges bringing in funding, you know, ventures that you just didn't work out for whatever reason or never got off the ground, maybe something similar to like my gold deal or my billionaire club. I'd love to hear your stories and just hear where you're at. Any insights, comments, you know, comment, even if it's just, hey, good insight or whatever. It can be really short, doesn't have to be long. You can ask questions if you want. I'd love to get your feedback. Just leave your comments below here on the blog post. And if you feel so led, you can just click right on the link above the video here and share it on Twitter or Facebook, or email it to your friends. So that's all I have for today. Until I talk to you again, I will encourage you, don't give up on your dreams, be persistent, and until I talk to you again, leverage all that you've got to get all that you want. God bless. I'll talk to you soon.